in recording, Eberron Renewed, there are tons of times where, like, we did another recording just the other day, and there was a bit in it where about 15 minutes later, everything in me wanted to go, hey guys, can we just take that scene again? So yeah, totally. Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards. I am Philip.
I gave you a perfectly good tagline for this show, and you never use it.
What is the perfectly... I don't remember this. What is the perfectly good tagline you gave me for this show?
This is Khyber Shard Answers, the show that is literally Ask Backwards.
I don't remember that tag. I know the joke. But I don't remember you giving that to me as an intro tag. That is solid. Literally ask back. That's good. Yeah. Well,
I'm all right, by the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As you probably know, but if you don't, Khyber Shards is an actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world, using 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And on Fridays, we record a little extra episode where we take questions. Primarily from our patrons, although we would also address questions given to us in comments below. Speaking of which, one of our many attempts to get some feeding for the mighty, voracious, and fickle YouTube algorithm is some attempts to get more comments on our episodes. Eric's currently running a contest he'll do a drawing after we get to 2,000 subscribers. And for if we can get 25 comments, just 25 comments on one of our recent videos, I will GM the next session in some degree of costume. How much costume will determine how far beyond 25 we get. At 25, I will wear my lovely doublet, which you can see hanging on the doorknob behind me. Yes. And if we go above and beyond, then I'll get more elaborate with it. So if that would amuse you at all, just put a comment in the bottom of this. It doesn't have to be deep or pithy or really anything, but anything helps the fickle mistress that we serve here, known as algorithm. We would certainly appreciate your support.
Did we have a gender before? I think before
that's true. That's probably the first time that I have referred to the algorithm.
Yeah. We're really developing a backstory here for the.
Yeah, I'm going to develop a warlock patron for 5th edition that is the YouTube algorithm.
It's even got a good Cthulian apostrophe name, algorithm.
Mm-hmm. Algorithm. Yeah, algorithm. Yeah. It's going to be good. Anyway, so this little Friday extra is going to be a Q&A primarily focused on Esri. We got some really interesting questions regarding the character of Esri, and I'm interested to hear RA's views on them, because this is one of the fun things for me as a GM, getting questions that are deep about characters. It's useful information for me.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll read through these.
Just a little more rope to hang me with. Here you go.
I take notes. We'll read through these, and RA will answer them to the degree that he wants to. Obviously, if he's got story elements that he's developing in his character, we don't want to spoil them. But there was one question for me, which I'm not going to answer here because it would take too long. But Darren did ask if I could do a brief history of aberrant marks in Eberron and highlight any changes I've made to what's presented in the source books. That sounds really interesting, and I would really love to do it. But I think it would take a little bit of time, and so I might save that for the next time I do one of these that's just me, and do that then. So yes, I can do that, but I'm going to do it later. I'm not going to do it right here, just because that's quite a deep question, and I think it will take a little while. So moving on, let's jump in. First, I want to ask a couple things.
Actually, real quick.
Yeah, please.
At the end of this week's episode, my pop vinyl reveal was hidden, and I did underneath my character avatar, and I didn't realize that. So this is is that visible? Yeah, this is what
there it is. Yes,
was supposed to be seen.
That's Daryl, right, from Walking Dead.
This is a very special one. I don't know if you could tell. This is the blood splattered Daryl. This was a limited edition.
Very cool. Yeah, you and Eric and Colin will need to do a pop collection video sometime, because I know Eric and
I've had
Colin
to stop.
have both
I'm out of
got
room.
quite a bit. Yeah, Eric and Colin have got pretty sizable collections. You can see some of Eric's behind him. Colin has a very specialized collection. I think Colin has every Deadpool and a few other particular ones, whereas Eric's is a little more broad, and I think mostly video game focused. But yeah, you guys have to do a tour of your pop collections sometimes. That's one nerd collection thing I've never done. I've just never gotten into the pop vinyls. I don't know why.
You know, when they were first getting big, it was like, oh, I want those. And I knew that, and it would be a problem. So I just never bought one. Mm-hmm. And then my mother for Christmas got me a couple. I guess she had seen me looking at them or something at a store. And, once I had two, it was the start of a collection. So I had to keep going. And now, I don't think I have an obscene amount compared to what you could have. But yeah, I had to stop buying because I just have nowhere left to put them.
Yeah.
Just need to build my shelves.
So,
really what it is.
Yeah. So, hopping into some thoughts on Esri, we've had some, pretty significant looks at how Esri approaches drama and crisis since last we talked, with the breakfast conversation and the various discussions of what now, essentially. So how are you feeling? How are you feeling about Esri's development so far? Is anything surprising you? Anything that you are nervous about?
He's tough. He's a little tougher than maybe I was. Well, I don't know. I specifically designed him to be pretty far away from me in a lot of respects. So I guess I'm not surprised, but he has been difficult in certain ways. I find myself fighting against my own instincts a little more. And that's, I think everyone has that, where you have a conception of a character in the moment. When you're still early on, we still have only had a few sessions total. And you find yourself falling back on what you all, yourself, your own character traits, to be crass about it with a real human person.
Right.
And, our own stat sheets. And so just not knowing him well enough to know what he's going to do, and having gotten into more conflict, interpersonal conflict, than maybe normally would have happened in a campaign thus far. Yeah. We didn't have our plucky adventure to start with. We had a plucky adventure fight and then right into conflict with other party members. So there's an extent to which I'm definitely still feeling him out and trying to make the right character decisions for him. I've definitely taken the idea, and we've talked about this before, that he understands people, but he doesn't understand society. And yet, in this past episode, listening back to it, definitely with Geralt, he was much more eloquent and personable and even a little bit conniving than I anticipated playing him. And so I either have to be careful with that, but I also looked at my stat sheet and realized he does have a +2 charisma. So he's not actually charismatically deficient. It is it's just his understanding of interpersonal relationships is just very, very shallow. So yeah, I've got to do some thinking on that, whether or not that was just because it was Geralt, and he was trying to get something from him, so it's like a person he already knows, or if it's if he really does have this like extra layer on top of him that is the public face that can work in society. So I've got to work through that.
Cool. Yeah, I totally feel you, and I'm sure everyone listening who's played D&D absolutely gets the, was that really what my character would do, and why did my character do that, and does that match what my, absolutely. It's the moments where, in recording this, in recording, Eberron Renewed, there are tons of times where, like, there was, we did another recording just the other day, and there was a bit in it where about 15 minutes later, everything in me wanted to go, hey guys, can we just take that scene again? Totally. But I really enjoyed getting to play Geralt. Geralt was a really fun NPC to create.
Yeah,
really in
he's
that
not
moment,
what I was expecting.
I hadn't given him a lot of personality in my notes. I knew what he did and that sort of thing, but I hadn't written down a lot of depth as to his personality, other than that he was going to be, I had in mind for him to be kind of boisterous, and so it was just went with that. But yeah, that was a fun NPC to play. So, all right. Well, we've got some listener questions for Esri, or about Esri, not specifically for him, I suppose, for RA about Esri. And if you want to be able to post these questions, the fastest way to do it is to join our Discord, which you can find a link to down below. But if not, give us a question in the comments, and we'll try to get around to it next time we do a Q&A. And hopefully we'll see that then. So the first one comes from Darren also, and Darren actually asked this last week when I was doing this with Colin. Darren asks, what gives Esri his unwavering confidence and conviction? Does it have something to do with being a Kalashtar, or is it a product of his specific circumstance?
Well, Darren, I need a follow-up, to ask a follow-up question on that, because I don't perceive him myself as having unwavering confidence. This is an interesting thing about playing this in front of other people. There's definitely things that people perceive about the character that in my headcanon is not what's going on. So say that again. His unwavering
confidence and conviction. My guess, if I could interpret it, I would say that what he's referring to is there's definitely a streak in Esri where during the lengthy discussion of what to do next, Esri, like Ari, seemed to be absolutely certain that he knew what the right move was.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so part of it is a front, for sure. Esri, this is something I tend to put in my characters, intentionally or not. One of the fundamental cores of Esri is he's a survivor, and the way he has found to survive in some instances is to fake it till you make it, right? Like it's to put on that. Part of it, I'm sure, is just being a counterpoint to Ari, and the need to be contrarian to Ari. And so if he's going to be confident, well, then I have to be confident, for argument's sake. He has, I don't know. It's very interesting because he doesn't feel confident to me. I do think he has a leadership quality that it's kind of, again, that sort of latent charisma he has, and he does want the group to be well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another question coming up that I saw. I didn't see most of these, but that'll feed into that. But yeah, I think he's at core deeply unsure of everything. He's known nothing but everything that is stable falls apart eventually, and leaves him homeless and in danger. So any like confidence he's showing is him trying to make the situation what he wants it. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily real. And again, this may be just the thing. Like I'm a pretty confident person myself, for the most part, and so I may just be acting more me than him. That's also a possibility.
Sure. All right. Then we have a question from Eric, the other Eric, not the one on the show. Is Esri's training
literally
of
the
Shade,
other Eric, right?
Yeah, that's what his screen name is, the other Eric, which I find delightful. Is Esri's training of Shade for self-preservation or out of genuine care for Shade?
Yes, this is the one I saw, and I think it's related. I don't know that Esri understands a difference at this point. I don't think there's anything that he understands as selflessness or just like selfless love or affection. I don't think he thinks of things in those terms yet. Yes, he cares that this group, like I said, is well. Anytime someone is in any kind of danger or trouble, he acts pretty quickly, even against his own what he thinks he should be doing. He's getting in the fray. But at the same time, there's always that survivor thing going on. Shade not having full control means that without control, something is out of control, and that's danger for us and for him. And so that's a problem he thinks needs solving. So yeah, I think if you were to ask him that, it would be a difficult question for him to answer. It would be a difficult question for him to understand. And there's the aspect of Shade doesn't really want the training from him. We've seen that. She doesn't herself necessarily think it's a problem. And so there's that aspect of it too, that he feels like he's got to do some of the thinking for others. Like he sees the value in them, but he's also saying, you're not seeing this problem, well, I'm seeing this problem, and so I've got to take care of it. And that's that particular, maybe that's the confidence and conviction he's talking about, that he does see problems and think, well, that needs to be taken care of. Problems can't be allowed to linger.
Yeah, he's not I think a common trait in characters, especially I find with inter-party stuff, I think a common trait that players adopt, whether it's their character's nature or not, is to be non-confrontational, because you don't want to push someone's character and make them uncomfortable or step on anyone's toes or that sort of thing. And what I have liked seeing in this group is that there is a confidence in the other players, that it's safe to do that. That you can, there are lots of groups I've played with where if you got one of them off into the woods and then attacked them, pounced at them, that would be it'd be a whole thing. Like, I mean, obviously, you and Casey having the relationship that you do, it makes that sort of thing easier. But I've liked the fact that it didn't occur. I think it didn't seem to occur to you and Eric that it might be a bad idea to have an argument. Like, you were confident that you could do that with each other, and so I really like that. And I think that's probably part of what we're seeing too, is that the character feels right enough and feels certain enough of the necessary solution to be confrontational. So.
There's probably a good aspect of it that is also he doesn't have very much to lose. He's lost a lot various times in his life. Yes, I mean, the thing he has to lose is the group. That's really it. And so there's not too much that he's unwilling to try to fix those problems. So again, it's not necessarily that he's confident anything will work, but why not go for it? And we'll, if there are consequences, we'll deal with those at some point.
Sure. Yeah. Another question related to the training bit from Darren again. Was Esri's surprise training of Shade a surprise to Casey, or was it something that you and she had worked out in advance?
It was a surprise to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I if I thought this has happened in other games, because just true. Not almost every tabletop RPG I've played has been with Casey. And if I was thinking of doing something that I thought would that could cause a problem, I would run that by her and check beforehand. I don't think I'm trying to remember. I don't think the idea came up until when we were recording and we were having that conversation, and that idea is like, that is a problem. Like, Ari was talking, is like, oh no, that is a problem I can solve. We can go to the woods and solve this problem. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise to her. I think everyone, because it was a surprise to me too. It wasn't something I don't think it was something I was planning long term. It's also not the first time I've done this to players at the table, her. It is the first time with the other players at the table, but yeah, I've thrown things out there that caught people off guard before.
In the Mummy's Mask campaign, in our home game, your character and hers had an outright combat, right?
Well, she came to take a. She came. Well, yeah, it's a very complicated backstory. She came to take a thing away that belonged to her, and he didn't recognize her, and he was very attached to this thing, sentimentally. So yeah, we had a brawl. Yeah,
it was cleric versus warlock, or not cleric, monk versus warlock. Yeah,
monks.
Monk ranger fighter.
Yeah,
by that point,
multi-classed.
Yep.
He doesn't win that fight, by the way, unless he gets a chain stunning strike off. Yeah, monk doesn't win that fight versus cleric.
Well, she got you with like hold person or something, right? As you got spelled.
Yeah,
I think as
well. And then it was also her packed weapon, so
yeah,
I didn't get to win. There was no winning.
That's fair. Cool. And then we had one more from Laura in the first episode, R.A. said that Esri was, quote, reluctantly no Sharon. Why is that? And again, this might be one that's to the degree you want to answer.
Well, I'm sure this will come up at some point more in story. But I've talked about this already a little bit. He has a very deep conflict in his Kalashtar identity, Noshiron is 100% undeniably a real part of him.
Mm-hmm.
And his main like this gets a little deep to how I think of him, but his like main front personality would rather she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And is just thinks that everything about that is not good for him.
Actually,
But it's
for anyone who maybe doesn't understand, a little bit of very brief lore here, because I don't know if we've explained it in any kind of depth at the table. Kalashtar are all heirs to a legacy of a bond with a quarry spirit, with a nightmare spirit. This came up a little bit in the breakfast episode. And Noshiron is the quarry spirit that Ezri's family lineage is bound to. So there's a fragment of this spirit that gives Ezri these urgings.
all right. And it is the dominant, at least the way I'm interpreting it for him, and it may not be for all Kalashtar, but for him and his sect or his cluster of Kalashtar, it is the absolute encompassing dominant factor characteristic of their society is the whole path of light of these quarry. And so it was his entire upbringing that following that and doing what Noshiron needs us to do is our purpose. And of course he's abandoned. That has been abandoned in his life. It is no longer part of his life, but he doesn't get to sever part of his being. So he knows he can't not be that thing. He's aware of that. So that's the reluctantly part. It's just that, yes, I have a thing that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for bringing it up. Kind of situation. And so he doesn't like it. He doesn't want it, and he can't escape it. So that's the broad strokes. What that ends up meaning, I have no idea to a story, but yeah.
And then I have one more that it occurred to me would be a good one at this stage to ask players, just partly for amusement. It's also potentially useful to me. So I've thrown out a lot of breadcrumbs. There's a lot of little hooks out there. Which one do you RA, not necessarily Esri, which one do you RA find most enticing at the moment?
Well, Donabella is the like, I don't know, to me, the core concern for Esri. We talked about this beforehand, and we talked about this multiple times. I like the town.
Yeah.
I like that. This was definitely one of the more contrived things and things I've done on the show to both say that we need to get closer bonds in the town, and then to go instigate something with Geralt. I like that. I like the multiple threads of growing relationships with NPCs, and the possibilities for storylines and dangers from all that. I like that a lot. But in terms of just pure story, the Donabella situation is the thing that he's not going to be able to not come back to. There has to be, he's got to get some sort of resolution to that, for sure.
Cool.
And the really interesting about this story so far, or this game so far, is not having. I don't really have a clear idea of where we're going. and what we're going to be ultimately.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Typically you kind of start, like I said before, you start off a lot more, what's the term? Brute force, blunt instrument kind of thing, where, you meet in the tavern, you get hired to do a job, and you go do the job, and you build your reputation. We're really deep in the weeds of characterization and and interpersonal conflict. And so exactly what kind of group this is going to end up being is very much in the air, I think.
Yeah.
Only a couple have even shown heroic tendencies, and even then not exactly.
Yeah.
Like a couple have, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'm mostly interested just to see where things lead. Shark Eyes also interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird. Yes. Well, cool. Thank you, RA, for joining us today to answer questions about Esri. Thank you, guys, to all of our wonderful patrons who make it possible for us to keep doing this and to improve technologically as we go. And thank you for those of you who submitted questions. Again, if you enjoyed this, we certainly appreciate the like button and the subscribe button and all the other buttons. We would particularly appreciate some comments.
Buttons are for pressing. Do it.
Buttons are for pressing. Yes, press the buttons. All of them except that nasty thumbs down thing. Don't press that one.
That's fine.
I mean, okay, fine. Well, whatever. But if you press, I don't know. Can you press both of them? I don't know.
Yeah, they switch.
Yeah, see, there's a toggle. We prefer the upward thumb as far as the toggle. But really, just press some
upward
buttons.
thumb.
Yeah.
It's like the world's easiest yoga position.
Give us a comment and let us know what of the threads we've thrown out you find the most interesting and what you think is going to become of this crazy drama-filled gang of misfits that we have going on here. Once again, we thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this. This has been Khyber Shards. I'm Philip.
I'm R.A.
And
R.A. I can say my own name.
There you go. And we'll see you next time.